First and foremost, I love the whole the escapist log cabin look. Like, I mean, I hope you're like far enough away from humanity where you can look upon them in horror, I guess, is the thought pattern there.
Oh, well, yeah, a little. I'm kind of just up on my mountain by myself, and it suits me hermit wise, so.
I understand. Do you find that's how you write? Do separating yourself from people as far away as possible to kind of create? Is that something that you enjoy more, or were you ever once the guy in the Starbucks? I guess the question is, were you ever that guy who was like typing away?
No
Are
way.
people watching me?
No, it was never like that. It was always stuff I was doing like in my spare time between jobs and stuff. When I was younger and in college, I was working, 3-4 jobs at a time, going to school and writing too. And it was just, whatever I could fit in a couple extra hours here and there. So,
I gotta say,
yeah, just kind of being out in the quiet. It don't hurt anything. That's
no. I can't imagine. And more importantly, you don't need a mask for the deer and the miscellaneous animals that skitter around.
No.
So that's probably nice as well. Well, I have to say I'm a huge fan. I've read every one of your books more than once, easily, and it's something that I find it's a calming kind of thing, because I'm a person who tends to read a couple books a week on the regular, and it's my, like, some people will eat ice cream on a certain nights of the week or something. Like, I read books, and those are the things that relax me, and this is one of those things. So first and foremost, I'll thank you very much for allowing my brain to settle and allowing me to sleep without all the craziness of the world. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your money.
Yeah, and you know what? You are welcome for that as well. It's a good trade, in my opinion, for sure. So this story, as I've been following these releases through the years and everything that's come about through it, I always kind of wonder, how much of this kind of surprises you sometimes as you're growing the character, as you're growing the things. I mean, there has to be times when you're just like, I guess I'm going here now. I mean, are there Jim Butcher never say never things that happened? I mean,
I don't know about never say never, but yeah, I mean, there's stuff that I did not plan when I was setting out to put things together. Some stuff I did, some stuff I didn't. I never really planned how Dresden's love life was going to go. So, that has gone in a number of directions I hadn't expected. But as far as the actual story goes, though, I mean, it's pretty much doing what I planned to do from the beginning. I'm a little bit off. I'm a little bit off my plan right now, because with the last 2 books we had to split. It was supposed to be one book, and we wound up splitting them into kind of a mini duology that got released in the same year.
No, I understand. And that's something that, Peace Talks, when I saw that one and it ended, my first thought was, when is the next one coming out? Because that's the kind of cliffhanger that you left there. I mean, I'm pretty sure you were cognizant exactly of what you were leaving them with at the end of that, right?
Yes, exactly. And yeah, that was why I insisted on the books coming out as close together as we could put them, instead of coming out like, a year apart, something like that. I mean, if I left a cliffhanger to the readers like that, after it had been like 4 or 5 years since the last one, I would not have survived. They would have found me. They would have hunted me down, through my mountain valley and killed me horribly,
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't have done that. So I wanted to release it in like back-to-back months. Do you remember when Back to the Future 2 and 3 came out in back-to-back months, and it was like a big deal because nobody had been expecting it?
Right.
I wanted to do something like that. I said, let's do back-to-back months. And they're like, well, Jim, we have to print too many copies to do back-to-back months. We can do back-to-back quarters. And I'm like, well, I'll take what I can get. I'll just have to survive that 60, 70 days and, hope the fans can't find me during that time.
Well, unfortunately, it was also a con period. So there was a lot of cons in there. Even if they were virtual, they were still in between those moments. So a lot of them were fiending, as it were. So, but
yes, it's true. It's true.
I have to say that I am happy that it's here. And I'm sure a lot of fans are extremely excited to see this as well. With Dresden and his world, it keeps expanding. But every time I see Dresden, I still see him in the original way that you created him, as a guy with a staff in sweatpants running down chasing monsters. Like, that's how I see him in my head. So how do you still see him when you picture Dresden first? I mean, is it the gunfighter in the leather, or is it, just the guy who's doing the best he can with what he has?
I don't know. For me, I don't know. He is the guy doing the best he can with what he has, but at the same time, he's also, for me, like that really, really annoying roommate, like the one that that takes you to the really good parties, but by God, he has got to do his dishes once in a while. That guy. That's sort of like what Dresden is for me, because I've got to live with him for like 6, 7, 8 months at a time. The readers get him, and you get to read the book, and you read the book in a day and a half, 2 days, 3 days, and then you're done. I'm stuck with the guy for months, and so the readers are like, we need more, and I'm like, I need a break from this guy. It's sort of the way I wind up with him, especially when his life gets super dramatic. I'm going to have to go a little bit easier on him in the next book, I think.
Well, and that's something that, of course, we can't bring up, but there is a lot of drama. I mean, peace talks ended, and for anyone out there who's watching this right now, you have to have read up to peace talks. I'm just going to give you that right now. If you haven't, get to it. Come back here, watch from here on out. You should have eaten it like candy already. So if you haven't, let's just start from there. But of course, we have Mad Titans. We have a city under siege. I have Chicago back here behind me, as you can see, which would I couldn't find one that was covered in snow and exploding at the same time for some reason. So I just kind of went with this, which is fine, I guess.
Sure.
But there is a lot of things happening and coalescing too. So was this your, if you were to equate it, is this your, like huge, like Lord of the Rings-ish kind of like battle, that, we're at Helm's Deep and this is what's happening, everyone to arms kind of thing?
This was the warm up.
Oh,
yeah, we got stuff to do. We got a lot of stuff to do. But we had to get started somewhere, and so we got started here.
Yeah, well, and that's something that I guess I'm really gonna look forward to as well, because I'm excited, like I said, to see how things grow. But it's funny how that for everything you give Dresden, you always kind of take a little bit away too. Is that something you've always had as a kind of a human aspect, whether it's power and then pain, he's hurt and then he's strong. Like, is that something that you've always wanted to kind of make him as human as possible in that regard?
Oh, that's not me that does that. That's life that does that. Life does that for all of us. Every time you run into something, even when you run into something terrible, there is something good to be had. There's something strong to be had in that. And if you can find it, then that will make you a better and stronger person. Even when you run into something rough, it's possible to pull strength out of that and to keep going.
Well, and that's true. I mean, as long as you're not creating Superman, who has all the powers and all the power, to move suns and things like that, I guess you do have to you have to give some leeway when it comes to that too. Sure. Expanding on all the characters too, throughout the years, has there ever been characters that surprised you that grabbed fans way more than they grabbed you? Like, you created them, but the fans really grabbed onto the love of them, or do you always see kind of from the fans' point of view when it comes to the characters you kind of involve?
Well, I mean, if you want to be a successful writer, you always try and see it from the fans' point of view. And seeing things from the reader's eye is one of the critical parts of my writing process. I write live to a group of beta readers, and I try and get like a broad spectrum of different kinds of nerds involved in my beta reading. And as a result, I can get a lot of different perspectives, and there are different people in the group who latch on to different characters. And sometimes characters get put into books just because I ask the beta readers, hey, who do you guys want to see more of? And they'll say, we want to see more Butters. Okay, more Butters in this book, I'll do it. And it's just as, it's as simple as that. And Butters is a good example of a character who started off as just sort of a little side character, and people really liked him. And so there was an appropriate role to give him a bigger part later on. So I was like, okay, give him a bigger part. And they're like, we want to see more Butters. And it's like, okay, I guess we'll do a bit more. But I mean, that's kind of part of my job. I mean, it's always been the job of the artist is always producing for his patron. That's just sort of been the way it's been. It's just in the past, the patron was a rich member of the nobility or somebody like that. And these days, my patron is crowdsourced. But it is important for me to listen to my patron still. That has not changed.
Well, I have my favorites as well. All the things that I guess the pillars of who Harry is are kind of defined by the people around him very much so. So I'm very excited when I see a return of Mouse, or I see Bob, or I see all these things too. So go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, I said that's a good observation, man. That's smart. Yeah, that the different aspects of his personality are being reflected in the folks around him. I mean, that's true. I didn't intend it, but that's true.
Well, and that's something that I think that Harry has more than anything else, along with that human aspect where he does get hurt. He does learn, and he does cross the line at times. And when he crosses the line, it's the humanity of everyone around him who kind of instills and teaches him how to still be human again, which is even more important now that he's the Winter Knight and he's losing that. I'm guessing a grain of sand at a time, because they got time to go with. So that's kind of the thing I look at when it comes down to that too. So I very much have that in my mind as well. So, if we can just mention some of the things, like we are going to see Mouse, we are going to see Bob in this new one as well. We are going to see Butters. We're going to see, so many different people coming from the Fomor. Is that how you say it correctly? The Fomor?
Yeah, the Fomor. Yeah.
I want to make sure it's not like a Formor. Like I don't need to give like an Italian like a Formor or something like that. Is there a correct?
If you do, I'm not that knowledgeable. So,
well, you're the one who did it, so I'm hoping you be the one who would make. No, it's for more. Well, okay. Well, I think for more sounds devious enough. So let's just go with that. But the way these characters grow, and also the things that always kind of interest me when it comes to authors is the things that they pick up and run with, but also the things they kind of leave behind to maybe go back to, maybe happen. So like the Molly Carpenter stuff, whether she is a daughter, a love interest, a possibility, or what she is, are those the kind of doors you kind of like to leave open for a while until you come back to them, or are you something you want to keep open just for the fans to allow them to create?
It's always smart to give the fans room to play and room to speculate. As far as when you're telling a story, the worst thing you can do is dump out absolutely everything and just hand it to people and say, here, this is how things are. I mean, nobody wants that. Really, in a story, you want to wonder what's going on. You want to see things develop. You want to see what you want come true. So a lot of my job is doing that, is figuring out what the reader's going to like and what they are going to want to come true, and try and find a good way to bring that true that they maybe haven't seen before, or at least is effective enough to really draw them into the story and get them out of the wonderful world of 2020.
Right. Well, I have to say,
that's my job, by the way. I sell mental painkillers. That's what I do.
This is true. And it's funny because I am a person who wholeheartedly believes in full force into fantasy, but I'm also a logistical person. So when you're telling me that Harry can't have like hot water in his place, I'm thinking, well, why doesn't he just have far away, and just pipes from a farther away will make it work? And like, I'm thinking about all the ways logistically he could make these things happen. But then I'm trying to think of you as an author trying to explain all that without a blueprint and like how this would all work as well. So
and instead I just made him poor, and it's like, yeah, he could do it. He had all these different resources, but as it is, he's stuck in this basement apartment in a boarding house most of the time. And then he's been staying with, either out in a freaking cabin in the middle of nowhere with friends, the past couple of years. So, I mean, he's had it rough. He's one of these guys who really needs to, at this point in his life, needs to get grounded a little bit and sort of put his house in order.
Well, not only that, I mean, having a daughter is a definitely grounding thing as well.
Oh, yeah, that changes everything. Kids change everything.
When was it, do you remember, that you decided you wanted to add a daughter into the mix? Like, was it that book, or was it even before then where you thought he needs this?
Oh, I knew that I wanted to do it, right back from Death Masks. When the daughter was conceived, I was planning that for the future. I wasn't sure exactly which way it was going to go. I hadn't actually planned on her being an ongoing character, but given everything that had happened in the story, it made too much sense for the Carpenters not to take care of her. And then once that happened, she was going to be around and in Harry's life. And so he was going to have to confront the fact that, here's his child and what is he going to do about it? And I didn't know how to handle that. I mean, how was I going to handle it? So the only way I could do it was to write the scene and find out how Harry was going to handle it. And, we wrote the scene, and the girl was just adorable. And Harry Dresden was ultimately Harry Dresden. He's not going to turn away from the child.
Once again,
girl, he's going to take care of her.
For sure. And then once again, another aspect where by having her, he kind of forgives his childhood too, I think, along the way too. So that's one of the things that I kind of got from that with his growing up and, a way of pain as well as learnedness and respect from his Haas uncle, let's say. So there was a lot of stuff that kind of came away. It's not uncle, it's grandfather. Is it grandfather?
Yeah.
Grandfather. Sorry, uncle is what I want to say, but it was grandfather is what I want to make it correct because fans will have an issue with it. So I always want to correct whenever I have the opportunity right there and then before someone gets the period and the comment hit button as fast as possible. So, one thing I always kind of think about, and this is something that fans think about all the time on all the forums and all the pages, they're always talking about like live action and movies and things like that. But I kind of want to ask you, from the TV show and different things going forward, did you always have like actors in mind that kind of changed through years as to Harry and different people too? I mean, do you remember who you first thought would be the perfect Harry and then now maybe a different one, or how things change?
The first Harry Dresden was the guy that played Duncan MacLeod in the Highlander TV series. I'm trying to think of his name. Adrian something. Adrian Paul.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like in 1995 when I first wrote it. And then after that, it was James Marsters for a good long time. And now I'm not sure it would be. I think I would want to like find somebody find somebody new who could just do the snark well enough and just give him a chance to win over everybody's hearts and minds.
I think at the time, my first one was Hugh Jackman, but not because of Van Helsing. It was because of the one where he was a hacker with Halle Berry, a Swordfish, because he was a guy doing stuff, but he was just so jumbled and everywhere and crazy, but he was still this lanky guy who could kind of get things done and was trying to do good. And so that's why I always kind of picture Hugh Jackman in my mind because of that aspect of him. Like he can play the epic loser who's trying to do good and maybe just grab the right marble at the right time. And so that was kind of
exactly. Yeah. That's an excellent point, man. That is an excellent point.
So I'm very happy about that, and the rest of the characters too. They're just so growing on me every day, every time I read, and I kind of try to think about who they are and all the things they are doing. Now, I know that during New York Comic Con, you were kind of, talking about the characters, answering fan questions, and, the possibility of how you expand the world. What is your current mindset about expanding the world beyond, let's say, graphic novels and the other things you've been doing?
It's not something that I'm like rushing forward into because it's still my job to get these books written. And that's got to be like my main focus is working with words. I would love to see it if we could do TV again. That would be awesome. I think that would be great fun. If we could, I would think an animated series would be a whole hell of a lot of fun for me to do. Because when you're animating things, you can do it. I mean, you can run your special effects budget as high as you want.
Right.
I mean, it costs just as much to blow up Chicago as to not blow up Chicago when you're doing cartoons. Which is why it's close to writing in that sense. Well, so that would be a lot of fun to do.
I hope one day you take a couple books to South Korea and just go, knocking on some doors, and who knows what they'll bring about, because the animation has gone pretty great there too. So I look forward to whatever animation.
Not a bad idea.
Well, and that's the thing. They're always looking for great stories with deep characters, and that's something that I think we definitely have with all this too. And then, of course, whatever else may come with the TV show, we still have the memories of the things that have come before too. So I do enjoy still seeing the TV show with Paul, and I still enjoy seeing, reading the graphic novels as well. So there's definitely a lot of stuff that's still there that allows us to kind of enjoy the hemisphere therein too. So, and like I said, I look forward to seeing what else comes about in any new prerogatives once we get past whatever battle is coming, as you kind of mentioned. So I look forward to seeing the battles that will commence. I'm a big fan of Mouse just because I'm a dog guy, so I always look forward to seeing Mouse win the day somehow. Is one of my favorite things too. And more importantly, I think that like you said, trying to find a grounding for Harry sounds like a good thing as well. So I'm very excited to hear about that too.
Yeah.
One thing with dealing with the fans on a book that you release new books and you release new stuff all the time. What is it you think that you see sometimes when fans come and meet you? They shake your hand, they want something signed. What is it you see in them when they come to see you besides the smile, besides the book? I mean, they kind of bring something with them, don't they?
Sure. I mean, everybody does. I mean,
I mean, like in the sense of like, yeah, they kind of bring their excitement, their love, their interest, or more importantly, they bring a piece of your world back to you almost. Is that too deep?
I mean, I just love. Well, maybe it might be too deep for me. I don't know, but what I really love is when you write. You write in a vacuum. You get the words written down and you organize them all. And yeah, I mean, I'm writing to my beta readers to try and overcome that. But for most writers, it's hard for them to get that, especially the folks who are just starting out. So it's so gratifying when you run into people that your work that you did by yourself, all those mornings and evenings and afternoons and late nights, stuck in the office, just clickety click on the keyboard. And when you finally see that had an impact on somebody, that comes back to you, and you understand, wow, that really did reach out and touch someone. It's like, oh, good. I'm not just frantically playing Dungeons and Dragons with myself and writing it all down.
Another question I had was some kind of my thought too was, gods and monsters, deciding how big they could become. How, I mean, in our human terms, we always seem to think about things only as big as this hemisphere, but there's a huge galaxy and realities and all these other things that you kind of go to as well. But now we have Titans. Before we did Fae. We've done a bunch of things along those lines. I mean, are you always open to expand beyond that? Or is that something you want to kind of keep certain things are real in this reality and certain things just aren't in the sense of gods and monsters?
Oh, the Dresden Files was always constructed as far as its pantheon went. It was always constructed to add more things in. It was built to just, my thinking was never, how do I explain how this monster fits into the Dresden Files world? It was always, how does this monster does fit into the Dresden Files world? How do I make sure that the world is big enough and wide enough for everyone to be involved in it? So basically anything that's out there, it's going to be in the Dresden Files universe somewhere. And that way, anything that I ran into, any kind of storytelling, any kind of lore, any awesome monster story that I wanted to jump on, I would be able to incorporate into it. I mean, it was just pure cultural piracy of let me go forth and find the really great monsters and the really great stories and the really great legends that have stood for thousands and thousands of years among humanity. And go play with this is the box of Legos I'm going to play with. And that was what I wanted to gather up when I first got started. The world is full of incredible stories. And the longer I've been doing this in business, the more I've been able to be able to go out and learn those stories and hear those stories and read those stories. And I wanted to be able to incorporate absolutely everything into this book if I want into this series if I wanted to do it. So the thinking was never how do I make a particular given monster mine or something like that. The thinking was always how do I include anything and everything into this so that it's all going to have a place somewhere. And
that's something that I do enjoy because we do touch on the Christianity of the the knights and the cup and different things like that. But we do also take side ventures into Bigfoot and finding new characters that way as well. Is that something you kind of enjoy with maybe the short little vignettes as well, as you kind of create new little characters and test them out and see if you can bring them to play with the big boys?
Oh, exactly. Or even then, sometimes the stories that come to me, that just pop into my imagination, they're not good stories for a novel. They just wouldn't make interesting reading, for the course of a story on that scale. But if I can find some way to put it into a graphic novel, if I can find a way to put it into a short story or into a microfiction that I let go on my website, then I want to include that. I want to give the readers who are hungry for more material, a wider view, without sort of choking all the other readers who are like, hey, listen, man, I like your world and all, but I just kind of want to see Harry Dresden be funny and blow some guys up. And so for those readers, we kind of keep the main books more about, sort of more in that line. But for the readers who want more, I want to be able to provide more material for them. And so I couldn't include all that in the main story, but yeah, I want to put it into the side stories. I want to put it into, a spin-off series after I'm done with the Dresden Files. I want to be able to add more stuff for the people who want it.
Well, I got to say, Battleground itself, I was trying to think of the best way to surmise it, but there's so many things that stick up like really, really hard into me. So it almost feels like it needs to be like, there will be tears. Like that's kind of my thought on this. There's so much stuff that's great about it, but there will be tears. And I feel like that's something that, when you create, I'm sure you've already kind of pictured people going, oh, what? Like just questioning that too. Do you see that in your mind as soon as you write it? Do you take a step away from like big points in writing in the stories where you're like, well, he killed his wife to kill the Red Court, or not his wife, but Susan to kill the Red Court. Do you take a step back after those moments and just kind of try to eat them up yourselves and figure it out, or is this just something you move through as quickly as possible so you can kind of get to the next part?
I kind of cackle like a mad scientist while I'm doing it. I mean, just sort of anticipating the reaction of the readers when I deliver some of these things, when they get some of this stuff. Sometimes I've thrown some really dark stuff at you guys over the years, and yet you managed to stay with the character. But yeah, I mean, I do spend a considerable amount of time thinking about torturing. I'm not allowed to torture you guys, so I torture Harry Dresden instead because it's as close as I can get to doing it to any of you, without getting in trouble.
Yeah, and I think that's
you don't have to be a sadist to be a writer. You don't have to be sadistic to be a writer, but it definitely helps.
It definitely does, because I think about the losses that he lost that were important to me. I mean, even his apartment was important to me at the time, and then he lost that too. So there's different like levels of things that he's lost along the way that make me sad, but there's also the additions too. So, overall,
right.
Battleground. So you said this is the beginning, not necessarily a lull, but a beginning before a battle, then I guess is what we're looking towards when it comes to Battlegrounds.
Yeah, we're getting set to do the really cool stuff now.
Well, if the really cool stuff hasn't even shown yet, then I'm really, really, really excited for what's coming. So I want to thank you so much for talking with me. You know what? Like I said, I love these books, and I've read each copy many, many times. So I look forward to more tales and more fun with all the characters that I do enjoy. And I hope to somehow, some way, when I finish a book, hear you cackling off in the night somewhere, hopefully far, far away, but somewhere in the night, and then we'll go from there to the next step, the next one down. So thank you very much.
Cool.